I don't come from a lot, right? I didn't have running water till I was 12, but it was beautiful.
He looked at me and he was like, I was an artist like you. And he got very, very intense, and he was like trying to tell me something.
I don't know what year the steel mill left, but I know I've heard about it my whole life.
I think something that caught me off guard a bit moving to Portsmouth was it was almost like people had given themselves a ceiling.
What matters is that with your opportunity in your life, you maximize what you are capable of doing.
So I moved here 10 years ago. As soon as I arrived, I realized I did not want to leave.
So it's just a matter of like, well, what do I do just to give myself the best opportunity to win where I'm at?
Sure.
My story's the only one I've got. My situation's the only one I'm in.
City, we can't do things like that. We can't be like that. We can't look like that. And that's just not true at all.
New Local Legends Podcast. Real small town success stories.
You have quite the lineups.
We believe that if people know better, they can do better.
When you kissed me by the river.
Sponsored by Lochner Enterprises.
As prize of made at Lochner Chevrolet.
Time to turn.
Rich Moon.
Welcome to the Speakeasy.
The amount of love and compassion.
The hope that's been bubbling up in the last few years.
The finer things about Portsmouth.
You just don't see that everywhere.
Local legends only.
If you had any advice to give to the up-and-comers, people that are trying to make a way here or to find success, is there anything you wish you would have known earlier on that you could key in about how to be successful, specifically in this context?
So I mean, one of the things that I've thought about a lot in my life is that I don't come from a lot, right? I had the greatest childhood anybody could ever imagine. We didn't have a lot of money, right? It didn't matter, it was really cool. One of the things I always tell Jack was I was born in a house down on the river bottoms, and that saying, were you born in a barn? We actually moved. The house was so bad where I lived, we moved into a barn. No joke, right? Like, so from 0 to 2, I lived in a house, that had a couple light bulbs, and the water would freeze in the kitchen in the winter and all this stuff, but no running water. I didn't have running water till I was 12, but it was beautiful, right? My parents are brilliant people. They taught me so much in life. They're awesome, still doing great, which thankfully they live real close to us now. But I think that one of the things that I wish that somebody would have told me, because when you're a kid and you're growing up, you're always looking at what somebody else has or what they got. And what I wish I would have known is the beauty of our country is everybody gets their opportunity, right? It's different than other people's.
Yeah.
Right? Your opportunity was different than mine. That what we do with that is how you're defined, right? So I wish somebody would have said, like, it doesn't matter if you're way better looking than I am. That's that's a better opportunity for you. That doesn't matter, right? So what I wish I would have known at a younger age is just because somebody was, had a different upbringing or anything like that, or you had some perceived that their life was easier than yours, that doesn't matter, right? What matters is that with your opportunity in your life, you maximize what you are capable of doing. And I feel very fortunate for my parents to have taught me that at a very young age. And but I think that's one of the things that I wish people would grasp. I mean, don't be mad at the kid at school, right? Because they've got newer books than you or something. It doesn't, your books are fine, right? What you do with those books is all that matters. So I wish that's what I knew.
It's very common when I go anywhere around here. It's very common to have people, they see me coming with my black truck and they're, oh, here is a dude. And then I open my mouth and they're like, who is that? And the first question is, where are you from?
Why are you here?
Yeah, what happened? And so usually I like to answer that I'm from Texas. And that does not always go well. Some people are like, oh, we have a funny Frenchman right there. And yeah, so I moved here 10 years ago. As soon as I arrived, I realized I did not want to leave. So I have a lot of things to say about that. But yeah, there are a lot of things that push people away from here, but there are a lot of things that you don't find anywhere else. And it's difficult to explain. But there is a mentality that means that I call that place home, and I know it won't change. This is a story that actually changed my life completely. So when I graduated with my Master of Fine Arts, I grew up in a small town in Brittany that was very similar to Portsmouth in size. And so when I had my Master's, I had to find a job, and so I joke, I usually tell my students that I found a job on the first day after I got my Master's at the factory. And so I was, I always worked anyway. So right after I graduated, I was in a massive, on-site with a massive factory, and we were building hospital beds. And it was an American company they had this factory in Brittany, and I was the person that was supposed to attach the wheels on the bed frame. That was my role. I was the guy who was putting the wheels on. And the more I was doing it, waking up at like 3 in the morning, being at work at 4 in the morning, working until noon, and the week after you wake up at noon and you work like just this type of stuff. And so the more I was putting those wheels on the bed frame, the fastest I was, to a point where at some point I had like almost 30 seconds in between each bed coming at me. And so I started to draw the faces of the people that were next to me on the line. And so then they would receive the bed, and on the paper sheet with all the notes and everything, there was a portrait of them. And so they started to call me the artist. So I was the artist at the factory. And one time I was with that guy called David, and he was 65 and he was ready to retire, but he did not want to retire because he wanted to afford some vacations for his family for the summer that was coming. He looked at me and he was like, I was an artist like you. And he got very, very intense, and he was like trying to tell me something, and he was like, I was an artist, that's what I wanted to do. And he looked at me, he was like, get out of here, man, like, get out. And and so I looked at him, I was like, I think you just changed my life right there. Wow. I shook his hand and I left. I sent my work to a man that I know, that is I can call him a friend today, but he offered me to show my work in the bar that he had in Paris. And it was a bar where there was some shows and some exhibitions and everything like that. And so it was a pretty popular bar. Some art directors saw my work on the wall, messaged me, offered me a job. At the time it was in concept art. And that's how I started. I started doing concept art for some podcasts, like it was some kind of graphic novel podcast, science fiction type of stuff.
Wow.
And that's how I started. So I made enough money to stay and live in Paris, which is kind of a miracle at the time when you try to make it as an artist.
Sure.
And then after that, it was, a snowball effect, like some bigger companies messaging me, wanted me to do book covers. So I did a lot of book covers at the time.
So it's really one of those, like, we can all start to speculate as far as like, how do we get here kind of deal.
Yeah, sure.
How do we wind up here? I'm more of the school of thought of like, at this point, what's it matter?
Sure.
We're just here.
Yeah.
We're just here. And I think it goes back to, I think that the justice system is trying to do some kind of service by the way that it's like holding accountable the big pharma and those sorts of things. And for, it's probably not enough. But I think really rather than to count on somebody else to kind of make that stuff right for us.
Correct.
I think what we've kind of finally gotten into is like, nobody's going to come in and wave some sort of magic wand that's going to make us feel better about what happened.
Sure.
Or that's going to make us somehow more motivated to correct the problem.
That's a powerful thing to come to terms with, Max, that you kind of like get out of this mindset of someone needs to pay for this. And
yes.
Like, what can I do to fix it on a one-to-one basis?
And it goes all the way back, man. Like I said, like I believe that my generation and the generation before me were sold the dream that this place has had its day and it's gone. And if you want to do anything good, it's not going to happen here.
Sure.
Right? I don't know what year the steel mill left, but I know I've heard about it my whole life.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know how many different companies have passed on Portsmouth and they're not going to put their big factory here or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't particularly believe that matters. You know what I mean?
And man, I love like when Bill Deaver was talking on the subject on his episode. I loved him talking about like, everyone's speculating this big factory that's going to come in and save everyone. One, it doesn't happen, and two, like, who's going to go work there?
Yeah, the workforce is not here.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Not here. Right.
So it's almost like it's kind of easier to speculate or blame than it is to actually like get your hands dirty and fix the problem.
And as a person in recovery, it's one of the it's much easier to blame other people for my situation.
Yeah.
It's much easier to blame where I'm from. It's much easier to blame a set of consequences or circumstances, or that somebody's out to get me or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not fair, right? Like, life's not fair, income's not fair. It's just not the system we're playing in, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of like, well, what do I do just to give myself the best opportunity to win where I'm at?
Sure.
My story's the only one I've got. My situation's the only one I'm in,
I think something that caught me off guard a bit moving to Portsmouth was it was almost like people had given themselves a ceiling. They sort of had that, like, I'm in a small town. This is just the way things are. This has just always been the norm. We're not big city. We can't do things like that. We can't be like that. We can't look like that. And that's just not true at all. Like, social media, like you were saying, is so democratizing that, like, everyone has these tools. They're all free. We can all be out there competing against these bigger brands in these bigger cities and look just as good and be even better than them. And it doesn't matter that we're in physically and geographically in this small town. All these skills that we can give our clients and what they're giving to our community is just as good as everyone else's. And so not to let that hold you back from what you put out there, or what you inspire or you aspire to put out, or what you're inspired by. Go big.